So today I want to talk about, I was watching these ghost shows, and so I want to talk about, ghosts, the supernatural, the world around us that we forget about. And, but first I want to say, welcome to all the new people that came and found me. Hopefully it was because your soul was calling out to you, like, go to her. Because everything I talk about is about the Age of Aquarius, about healing, ascension, about, reprogramming ourselves and understanding what's going on in the world so that we can ascend and move into this new age that's going to be super exciting. In the whatever, before 2020, in 2019, I was, just had been, progressive liberal. I was a nurse. I got a brain injury in the hospital. And so much negligence and malpractice. That's when I knew, like, okay. And then when I went to the courts and I could see through that, like, everything kept opening my eyes to more and more and more of the corruption and how they're just not here for us. That in the programming, and how they just want to kill us by the retirement age, for sure. They don't want us around. So there's a lot of stuff. I got new perspectives with my healing, because I wouldn't have survived it if I didn't figure out how to survive it. And everything is taken away from you and your whole life collapses. So it changed everything, and I had to adapt. I had to figure out how to make my life work in a whole different arena. So, and in that because I was progressive, and I saw things through this other lens for so long, and then in 2020. When all of, when the quarantine, because I'm in Washington State, it was one of the first ones. It was the first one to quarantine and lock us down. And we're still there. And so they, when that happened, and I started, like, tuning in, as my, people started telling me stuff, and I would be like, that's not right. That's not how viruses work. That's not what these things are for. Like, what? And everything I would question, people would be like, well, this is new. And I was like, oh. I was a nurse. I have a science degree and a nursing degree, so, and a nursing license. Well, I don't have that anymore, but, I had to do all the work to get it. And I remember some stuff. I may not remember everything, but when I could see through what they were doing, because when I started tuning in and I saw, I knew that the Frauche was lying. Like, I could see through that little pipsqueak troll. And then once you find out, oh my God, what this man has done to us, humanity. Oh, he's a monster. One of the worst ones, I think, that's ever been on this planet. And then when I started, but the thing was, I was an anti-Trumpister all that time, like on Twitter. I was saying mean stuff to him. And then when I was watching the press conferences, every day was an update about the sickness. Oh, what should we do? Oh, what's happening? So I tune in, like, what the hell? What is going on? This makes no sense. When are they going to say, oh, just kidding? So I kept going and watching. But what I found out, like, they weren't ever going to say just kidding. But what I found out was that the news was lying about what he was saying. That just blew my mind. That once I had my awakening, and I knew I knew about the Age of Aquarius. I knew about the ascension. I knew about the solar flare. I knew about all that stuff. But I knew that we were all going to head to this time and place where we would all be facing trauma, so we could wake up for this ascension. But I had no idea at that point the mass corruption that we were experiencing, and how much we were being manipulated and lied to. That was just like, what? that is what led me to understanding about consciousness and about what they're doing here and how they have it trapped. Because everything that happens, my guides or whoever you think is talking to you, everybody's got a different idea. When I was a little kid, they started talking to me, and you know, I heard them, and they were talking to me, and they were telling me stuff, and they were telling me stuff all the time when I was a little kid. And I just thought everybody had the same thing. I didn't know that not everybody else had it. I thought everybody had the same thing. Like we were all having like somebody telling us what to do in there. So I was, that was a shock to me. I've only recently found that out. I thought we were all the same in that way, you know? So then, when they were, you know, explaining things to me about what was going on and the stuff that they just kept expanding and showing it. Once you plant that, once that seed is in there, they just freaking open it up and show you, and you understand things on such a level. And so that has been the biggest thing, you know, is understanding, to be able to see through the narrative and the programming and to break free from their system. Because their system has entrapped us as consciousness, and they lie to us and they trick us and they pretend like things are happening that aren't happening. They make stuff up. I mean, it's crazy. I think most of the things on TV are just lies. I think I bet you that we freaking have some celebrities that are CGI. They're not even a human being. You know, that's how tricked we are. I think it's crazy. And, but, you know, as we all wake up to this process, it is, you know, it's painful to some, and, you know, some, it's like a relief, like, oh my God, I knew it. I knew everything was a lie. But, you know, there's a lot of trauma that goes along with that, because when you've been tricked, like anybody who's come out of a relationship that's been abusive or gaslighted or any of that stuff, you know, there's a process of you re-identifying yourself, trying to figure out like your equilibrium, your balance, like, fuck, who am I? But that's the beauty. That's the thing that's hurting everybody. But it's also the beauty, because you finally get to discard what you never were. You never were these things. Now you get to choose who you are. Now you get to choose what you want to be. Now you get to build up who you are by yourself. And that is what is so freaking cool about this. And, you know, since I've already gone through that process, I know, I get it. That's why I mean, they kind of like make me talk about it. They pushed me into it, but I found myself once they pushed me into it. It was like walking through a door to show me who I was. And then it's so crazy, because all of my readings and stuff, it all is about, you know, you're speaking your truth, your throat chakra, like all of this stuff. And I know I see progression in my healing and in my self-development, you know, of who I am. And one thing that I think is super cool, you know, a lot of people talk about like your inner child work and stuff like that, because a lot of psychology is still a manipulation to keep us repressed and depressed till we run into the pharmacy and buy whatever's the latest and greatest. And so, you know, psychology isn't like the complete story. You know, it's got bits and pieces, but our soul gives us guidance, and this whole experience should be flipping that switch. So your soul is like in there, at least start arguing with it, you know, because most things, it is your ego and your soul. So your soul's trying to get balance with the ego, because the ego is a part of the soul, but it's, you know, it's kind of way out of balance in this world because it's been so manipulated, and they were feeding the ego. I talk so much about all this stuff. This is like a quick little synopsis, because I know some people, when they come in, they're not going to go back and watch all those, but there's a lot of different things throughout the different ones. Now it's like 850 videos or something. I don't know, a lot. I'm a talker. That's why I drive my family crazy. I'm like, shut up. But the thing is like this inner child work. And I've talked about that before, because your inner child is really your soul. When it came in, it was not so manipulated. So it's getting back to being who you truly are. And I feel like I have gotten back to who I was when I was a kid. You know, I can let go of the pain that, you know, the different people have caused me, you know, my dad, my mom, and I don't know, I don't think my grandparents so much. I mean, there's like, we all have little things that happen to us that give us doubt in our heads of who we are, but those are the gifts. Because when the people hand us doubt, we should be able to look at it and overcome it and figure it out for ourselves, you know, and that's our growing as a soul. So I talk a lot about soul stuff because when I was a kid, religion was the thing, and I knew that wasn't my thing. So I, you know, pushed that away, and I went in the direction of reincarnation, and you know, I was basing my knowledge on more reading about reincarnation, lots of books about that, and about near-death experiences, you know, when people cross over there for a minute. So, and there's so much, if you go in and start reading that stuff, you know, with an open mind, you'll see there's just, it's so laced together. And Dolores Cannon, she has great books about stuff. Oh, and Amber, I swear, when you get into these situations where you are just keep running into a dead space, like, I can't figure this out, I can't figure this out, it isn't from this life, it's past life stuff, you know. And everybody, you know, when you start looking at your past life, you start healing stuff that's going on in your life now that you don't understand why things are happening or how they're happening or whatever. When you go in, like if you go do a QHHT session, I've done a couple, but you can also just do a past life regression, probably, if you have a good one. But a lot of people who do the QHHT, they help you walk through this healing process. So you would talk to them about what's going on, and then they go in and they hypnotize you and get into your higher self. You know, they'll take you into your subconscious, so your conscious, or whatever. It's the one that you're not. It's the one that's working behind the scenes. So they take you into there to talk. But when it happens, you get visions of different lives that you need to be working on. So different scenarios. And it's weird because you can see a flash of something in it and you know the whole story. It's like you completely understand it. You can see it. My mom, she got one a long time ago when I was a kid, when I very first started this, but she still went in the way of religion. She thought, you know, her brain was making it up. But hers was really trippy because it was, she's walking all around in the room, and it was like this cabin, and it was, you know, like kind of primitive cabin. It wasn't like, you know, how people do it now. It was more like a rocking chair and a fireplace, you know, a little stove or something, you know. So it was a long time ago. And she was walking around, and they were having her look at things, but she realized while she was looking around that her husband was her dad in this life. And so that is the thing, is these relationships just keep repeating for us. We work with each other, and that's why there is no good or bad. We play different roles in different lives for each other, and that's why we've got to get out of this judgment of each other and anger and like, you're doing this to me, because every time someone does something to you, it's just so you can learn about yourself. So it's a whole way of reprogramming our brain to look at things differently. But I definitely feel like I've gotten to this place in my healing where I do feel like I have accepted myself as my kid self, my inner child, my true self. And, you know, I've gotten back to how I feel like I have that same excitement as that little girl did, that same, you know, wanting to explore and wanting to see things and have fun and stuff. And that's where we all want to be, you know. Everything that we're not, that is all been part of our manipulation to create this slave race for, you know, these aristocrats to, you know, step on our gravestones for them to get into their ships. So, I mean, we're just nothing to them. We're gravel. They don't care about us. They only care about how much money we're bringing in for them. They even use our birth certificates to do their trading. I mean, it's just so warped, especially because, you know, for so long we've been like trusting these people to give us guidance and help us, and they're setting this stage for us and stuff. And it's like, No, they were trapping us. They were just freaking setting up the habitat. There were a bunch of hamsters. Like, oh, god damn. So breaking free is like, our God-given right. It's what we're here to do. It's why we are at this point in our evolution. It is this breaking free. And I talk so much about that kind of what this planet has been about, because they were telling me when I was a kid, and I didn't know, when I was trying to tell people when I was a kid, and they're telling you, and then you hear somebody talking and they see something different, then I would be like, no, it's blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, okay, good, shut up. So, and now I see it as like, I am always talking to kids. Like, so what are you hearing up there? Because they are hearing, like they are more tuned in. They don't have these obstacles. And, as I thought that everybody had this same thing where they could hear people talking, once I found out they couldn't, now I'm at this point like, well, I know everybody can. Everybody has that, in them. It is our own blockages that keeps us from being able to do it. So in this process, this is about healing and breaking those blockages down, because they're all about limitations and keeping us in a box to keep us controlled, so we don't know our own power. So, I talk a lot about that kind of stuff too, is being able to learn how to communicate and identify communication with the other side, because they're talking to you all the time. And that's what, so in this show, and I've watched these shows before, but it's funny because I feel like I feel like I'm always evolving, but that I think that's what we always want to be doing. We always want to be changing. Yeah, you don't need to, just because you're a certain way this day doesn't mean you need to be the same way the next day. You gotta get up every day fresh and decide, hey, what am I thinking today? How am I feeling? What am I in alignment with, And so, now when I watch these ghost shows, I kind of like find it kind of funny. And I see it kind of like, I don't know, it's very Abbott and Costello. They go, they're all serious. They're serious as shit. I mean, they really are scared to go to these places and see these, and have these experiences. They're always scared, and they're always calling for something to happen. And then when something happens, they always panic, they're running, it's going to get me. Like children scared of monsters or something. But they've got that exploration kind of spirit in them. Like, hey, I know something's up. There's something out there. I've got to go find it. So they have that real pioneer, and that's what humans have always had, this desire to move forward, this desire of expansion. And, and that's what they've been repressing. And that's why it's opening up so much. People are finding all this like, oh my God, I'm an artist. Oh my God, I can sing. All sorts of stuff. We're all like discovering ourselves. It's so exciting. Oh, and when I'm talking about the crocheting, my hand is really cramping so bad. I just can't stop. But when I just want to make it clear on the crocheting. Like, I'm not some crochet expert. I learned to crochet during quarantine in 2020, midway through. And one of my daughters showed me how, and I just kept practicing and practicing, watching YouTube videos. And then pretty soon I was making blankets, and it was really passing the time. Like, I didn't think we would still be in this situation in 2022. I thought that was going to be like, like a couple of weeks, I'll make a couple of blankets or something, just practice. I made a lot of blankets. I made a lot of stuff. I've made so many hats and stuff now. And, so what I'm saying is, like, if you are looking for something to just kind of quiet your mind and help you get in a relaxed state and learn something new, which, anything you develop of your own personal skills is something that you can market yourself. Lots of people sell hats. It takes me way too long to make them. I've already had people like, you could sell them, go on Etsy. I've got all my paintings on Etsy. But, not all of them, but some. But Etsy is kind of a rip, I think. But it is my hands, they get too cramped, but my eyes, until they get these med beds and I can see again. I just feel like sometimes I will be walking around and I'll think, oh my God, it's just, everything's just going to suddenly go black. I'm not going to be able to see. What am I going to do that day? At least I know, this place is small. I probably do know how many steps between rooms and stuff. I just know I just gotta keep fighting until we get to that part where they start like releasing the med beds, and and I know we're in this shift. I know things are shifting. I mean, the stuff, if you go out and you just watch kind of the energy of what's happening, the stuff my mom says is on the news now, and yeah, we're definitely shifting and going the other direction, and there's going to be a lot of stuff being revealed, and it's going to get a lot of people upset. And the biggest thing I think is going to be that people are just going to feel tricked and manipulated, and and you got to process that. You got to go into it and look at it deeper, like, because it's bringing anything that gets brought up is because it's got something deeper inside, and your soul is giving you this opportunity to bring it out so you can heal it. And so many people want to just hold it back. I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to think about that. Give me a beer. And, you just like, it's kind of like prolonging it. And it's kind of like the more you can get done now, the closer you are for, everything for the ascension, because everything is about that. Everything that's going on this planet is about this changing of the age, this transition of leaving all of this old paradigm behind and creating a new existence for us in a healed state of mind, and knowing our own powers and abilities, but our own worth. And when we've all gotten to this place of thinking we're unworthy, that we don't have worth. We are all struggling to like ourselves, much less love ourselves. And we're all looking outside of ourselves in other relationships to complete us. And they all fall short, because nothing can complete you until you do the work inside. It's once you do the work inside, then you start drawing in what you want. When you haven't done the work, you're just drawing in lessons and triggers. So, the best thing is just hit them head on, just look at them head on, and, see what it is that you're not seeing about yourself, so you can release it and deal with the next thing. Because, typically there's a lot of things that we hold on to, that we think bad about ourselves, that we have. It's like we create our story of like why we're a piece of shit, why we're not lovable, why we're not acceptable. And then we try and adapt to make our personality what we think others want us to be. And really, we're all just want to be ourselves. And the more that we can accept ourselves, the more we can accept everybody else being themselves. So it just changes the whole energetic kind of pull on us that's why it's part of the ascension. But on this ghost thing, so it kind of, my nose is running. It's really cold. I started a fire. Yeah, it's really cold. Sorry. It's not like a bunch of snot. It just feels like wet. So I'm not just like wiping snot, but I don't want it. Like when you're talking to somebody, especially if you're outside and you're talking in there from the side, and you can see like they've got those like big bubbles starting to come down. It's like all this, I don't think it's snot. Snot is too mucusy. That would be like blowing out. But that wetness, and they can't see it and you can see it, and then you just start watching it, and it just gets bigger, and it's like, what's going to happen with that? And so it's like, just wipe your nose. So anyways, back to what I was talking about. So the thing is that the shows, right? So these guys, they go, because I kind of picture, what's going on that they can't see. So what the ghosts or whatever, the spirits are doing. Because it's so funny, as people think like you have to go to a certain place and that's where the ghosts are hanging out. They're trapped. They've gone crazy. They don't know what to do anymore. So they're just stuck there. Like their bodies died, and without their brain, they don't know what to do. But, early on, another thing I learned, besides the fact, they were talking to me, I came out of my body. And when I came out of my body, and I turned around and I saw I was out of my body. And this has happened to my grandson too. And so I don't know, maybe it just is in some families, you know, you come out of your body easier. I don't know what it is. But when I came out of it, the biggest thing that I took away from it was I was the exact same person. I didn't need my brain. I was still thinking. I still had the same, everything was the same. I would have never known I was out of my body if I didn't look back and see my body. I even could see myself looking like myself. And the only thing that was weird was that everything looked kind of gray and smoky. I kept wondering, why is it so smoky and why don't I smell smoke? And but that was the only thing that was different. But my biggest takeaway was definitely there's no difference. If you don't have your body, you're the same. You don't need your brain. Your brain is, I believe your brain is a processor. It's like your hair is the antenna. Your brain is the processor, and there's a whole world outside of here. But we are so focused on this hologram world that's created for us that we forget that there's other things around us. So when we start becoming more aware and pulling free from this, like, oh, it's all fake, and, you know, there's no God, there's no this, there's no that, all of this stuff that they tried to tell us, that then you start to, when you tune into it, you start seeing that it's all around you. And that was another thing when I was a kid. I was living in haunted houses. I never questioned, you know, if there was ghosts or not. I lived with them. I knew they were there, and I knew they weren't doing anything to hurt you. I knew they're just kind of like, hey, I'm just kind of living my life. The one in the one house that I lived, well, I lived in so many haunted houses at this point, but the first one where I really remember there being a ghost in the house was the composer guy who had killed himself and moved in this big old giant house. I was in high school, and everybody thought, you know, we were super rich. This house was really cool. It was, just to get the idea, it's high school, but everybody thought I was the richest kid in school. That's what this house was like. My dad was one of those. My dad was a young, egotistical pedophile. Like, he had a lot of issues, major alcoholic, womanizer, misogynist. Like, he was the gamut. If you want to go in labels, you can attach a lot. I'm trying to move out of labels, and he was a troubled person. But I also believe that in soul contracts, and I put myself in that situation to learn. To experience. And sometimes you are rebalancing things, or you're giving somebody else an experience so that they can understand something. And when you start, like if you start reading Dolores Cannon stuff, she does a lot of the QHHT's talks about them, and because she was a pioneer in that, and she was the developer, and she talks a lot about different people's experiences and past lives and stuff, and it helps you really start to understand, you know, how it all starts working, why you go through the things you go through, and how you're connected to the different people, and the people that cause you pain really love you, and all of that stuff. So those books really, and she's got a lot of books, but, living in a haunted house, I don't know, I got way more scared of bumps in the night when my drunk dad's walking in. That was scary to me. And I knew that, I think his name was Mr. Geibel. That just came to me. I think Mr. Geibel was super protective of me. I imagine that, he put an energetic block up at my door multiple times. I know he was watching over me, and I know it was because he had a daughter who when he killed himself, she had a mental breakdown and tried to kill herself, I think, and she tried to burn down the house or something, and she had to go to a mental institute. So I think he was like super protective of me because of that kind of like an energetic kind of protection, like he, for when you think about like a ghost, they're in their own reality. I thought that movie that I was talking about last week, I think it was called Ghost Town or something. I saw a couple of movies recently, where I thought they really did good at showing like the difference in the realities, because the ghosts that are just there living their life, they aren't all tuned in to what you're doing. You're just as insignificant to them as we are, as they are to us. We're that insignificant to them. They aren't just sitting there like all the ghosts gathered around, sitting there like watching us or something. But you have people watching you all the time, because we have a collective consciousness. We have consciousness around us all the time. There's spirits around us all the time. And that's why I said they're always talking. They've been talking to me since I was a kid. And, it's just us tuning in. And I know I have talked to so many people, and they'll be telling me something, and they'll think that like they just thought of that. Yeah, I just thought of this. I just came to me. And I'm always like, it just came to you, right? You know, your brain just all of a sudden went in there and just started formulating thoughts, right? Just creating its own. Because that's what I'm saying. As people are communicating and they just don't have the awareness, like, where did this thought come from? My brain's just sparking them out crazy. But really, there's people communicating with you all the time, and you have guides. You have your own team of communicators that are there trying to keep you on track in this situation that we're in this reality. In this reality is also your soul, your oversoul can experience. So you're just the avatar who comes down so it can watch, but you're being controlled by somebody above you. And I think that's why so many people get this idea of like, there's a God controlling me, and God has power over me and stuff. They don't realize that they are the God. They're cursing themselves. So begging themselves for more. So, but that's when you start really understanding your self-empowerment. I mean, how much control you really have over this life. And when you feel bad about yourself, you're pulling in just negative shit nonstop. But those are the lessons that help you to learn your value. So being in that isn't a bad thing, to be in that, feeling bad about yourself, because it brings you so much lessons to learn how great you are, and that is powerful. That's empowerment. So, when lessons and triggers come, celebrate and know your power, that you can overcome them. But so, ghosts and stuff, when they're going around, they're, just the same as like if you are, like, this is supernatural to me. Supernatural. It is supernatural to me, because this is where, when I was in high school, in grade school, is when I really started seeing and understanding, I could be in two places at once. I could be sitting in a classroom, but not be in the classroom at all. I'd be somewhere completely different. And then when something would happen in the classroom to pull me back into the classroom, I would all of a sudden realize, oh my gosh, I don't even have any idea what's going on here. What time is it? Is the class over? What's happening? And I thought something was wrong with me. And I didn't know, I couldn't keep up in school. I was having problems, and I was having a lot of problems at home. A lot of problems. It's like everybody else, especially for teenagers. And so when I would go and I would space out, I thought, that I was, just like this troubled person who couldn't stay in a room or something. But now I see it as like, oh, that's a gift. That is something that I can do. So that's another thing that I don't know that if everybody can understand this, when I say, if you ever have been in deep thought and you are someplace completely different and you're living a completely different experience in those moments, and then when you come back to reality, you realize you're sitting in the same place. That is what life is. It is where you're focused, where you are focused is what your experience is. The experience you have when you're focused on it is just as real as the experience here, because we are just focused on it. But while we're focused on it, we're being tricked and manipulated and telling us this is all there is. You're nothing. You're a burden to this planet. You've got serious problems. We got drugs for you, but when you start, tuning into yourself, you start seeing like, oh, what? You lying motherfucker. I am a fucking powerful bitch. So, you want to repress me. So, but that is, that more of empowerment. It's all in how we look at it. If we get all caught up in, the burden of it and poor me and keep ourselves trapped in being the victim, then it holds us back from moving forward and becoming and developing our truest self. So, anyways, when you are living with the ghosts, it is how much they are tuned into you. Like they're not just, they're just living their existence still. Like he would go down and rattle around pans and, he's always, rattling around and looking in things and stuff. He was always making noise and just kind of walking around the house. So he was kind of just living his life. He wasn't trying to live and be a part of our lives. I think sometimes we would pass by him and he would see and, like a realization, oh, there's other people here that don't see me. But, sometimes we would talk to him too. But this was in the beginning, where, this was in the mid 70s, where, people were, this is a generation like after Orson Welles, they're scared. They're scared of aliens. In my family, they were all super young. Because my mom was 16 and my dad was 20 and, so all their siblings were way younger. Well, my dad, he had a couple of older brothers, Jimmy and Johnny, and Jay was younger. He went to Vietnam and he got Agent Orange. He came back and he was seeing things. Like that's one thing they've done to the young men of this nation, of this world. Repeatedly, generation after generation. And it's all been to control our, they don't want us to be like mice or bunnies or something. I was like, oh my God, all they do is have sex and procreate and have more of those little babies. That's why they go in there and they think, oh, the surplus. They don't give a shit. They just see us as food. They don't care. That's, I think part of the reason why they've done so much damage, generation after generation, to the men who were at that age of having kids and being fathers and stuff. They've been purposely destroying the family and human natural life, the life that was provided for us, that before these aristocrats came in and started manipulating it. But we are going back to it, so this time is ending, so we don't want to hold on to it too tight. Just got to see it and say bye. Bye. We're gonna make it so much better. But so for the when I was seeing it, and they're walking in, and they're all like, oh my God, it's so scary, and be quiet, the ghost might hear us. And then, all the stuff they do. And while I'm watching them do all of this, I like the shows. I like the people or something. So I don't mean it in a mean way or something, but it's hokey. So when they're doing all this hokey stuff, right? I just see the ghosts just kind of sitting back with their legs up, smoking a cigar, drinking a beer, and just watching them. And, and they're asking, say something. And they're like, hey, yeah, what do you want to say? It's just so funny because they think they're monsters and stuff. And a lot of them are tricksters. They're just, if you're giving them attention, then they're having fun. And, if you're tuned into them, they're tuned into you. But, most, I think, when people are on the other side, they're not so serious. Things aren't very serious when you get to the other side. It is a lot more, just having fun, doing your thing, doing whatever you want. People, when they're living in their real life, they call dead, but it's where we really exist. And so our dead life, that it's all about just doing what you want. And, there's not rules they're a lot more fun-loving and happier. You know, that when they're not, you go and you create a life so that you can go down and experience. So yeah, you can be talking to your friends and saying, you know, developing a life. I think when you go into actual development, because this is all scripted. This is all already, everything you do is already, this is what you were always going to do. It doesn't matter. You were always going to do that. I was always going to do this. Like it's just scripted. It's just your higher self watching itself. So when the people, what was I going to say? So let's go back to the ghosts. You know, it's funny because the people who are in the room who are all got themselves all built up in fear and, oh my God, they're monsters. They've lost their mind. You know, they're crossed over. Now they don't know. And, like, this is the attitude. Yeah. So, I've talked about this before. But when my dad died, a lot of weird things happened in my life. And my dad was always, you know, he was one who kept pushing me after my brain injury. He kept pushing me to get a lawyer, get a lawyer. I mean, I was ready to just, you know, crawl under the rocks. I felt so defeated. And he kept pushing me and pushing me. So he's, you know, he wasn't all bad. I don't ever mean anybody is all bad or all good. He had good sides and bad sides. And he had a lot of very significant lessons that he taught me. And, but, you know, he's come to visit since, and he brings a completely different energy now. And, but when he died, some weird stuff was going on. So I had a friend who is a medium, and she can talk to specific dead people. She just can. And she's been able to do it for a long time. And dead people come up to her. Like, she could be out somewhere and dead. It's like in the shows where a dead person can see somebody that sees them. And they're like, oh, you see me? Let's talk. So she's had that happen a lot of times. But she doesn't go around telling everybody because, you know, you don't just go up to a stranger and say, hey, your dead relative just came up to me and told me to tell you blah, blah, blah. Because she's done it before and it freaks people out. So she doesn't do it all the time. But, you know, her and I had talked and, you know, her and I knew that this other world existed, you know, that's what it's all about. So when she came over to talk, she talked to my dad first, which was so trippy. It was really trippy because she knew so much stuff that, you know, there was no way she could have known unless she was really, and she told me so many things, like it answered questions to me about what happens when you cross over. And you are taking a lot of problems. And I've heard this stuff in the near-death experiences and reincarnation stuff, in the whole concept of purgatory. But the purgatory is kind of like a waiting center. Because like I said, when you go into the dead world, it's more high vibration. It's very high vibration. And you are living different. You don't have this same, you know, materialistic, you know, traumas. You don't have... you don't have all this attitude and moodiness, you know, you don't have all these emotions and stuff. We come here, crazy enough, to feel these emotions, because over on the other side, when you can't, you don't have a body like this, you don't feel emotions like this, but you're just as real, and you can make yourself look however you want. So, and you're going to look like who you know, you're going to be seen by them of how they know you. So you're always recognizable. It's not like, well, I was this person in this life, and then I went and saw this person. How are they going to know it was me? It's like, because when they look at you, they see who they know. And that's how it is. You see who you know and how you know them. And the eyes, it's like your soul is shown through. So you can always, like, you can look in someone's eyes in life and recognize your soul connection. You as soon as you look in their eyes and you feel that, you feel it in your heart. You know, that's where your soul is living inside your body. It's in your heart space, but it goes out. It doesn't just go and just sit in there, even though a lot of people have theirs squashed. Like I said, a lot of people have theirs in the dark, in a closet, locked up, under the bed, chains. You know, a lot of people are like, shut up, don't talk to me. Because it says things that a lot of us don't want to hear, because it wants to heal. And a lot of this world wants us to stay where we are, because that way we, you know, We're good for the supply chain. So when but when a soul goes and you see someone's eyes, your soul recognizes them. It's not like you have to go, hey, how do I know them or something. Your soul tells you right away, like, hey, hey in there, you know, and however it takes you to get to that place, you know, everybody is different. Like, you can have a soul connection, you know, it could scare you and kind of triggers you and, you know, pushes you away, or it could pull you in. And each soul connection will be different, you know, and a lot of soul connections I've had were really big lessons. Well, everybody that you have any connection with is a soul connection, because you have your own group to come down. And I kind of feel like some of the groups are pretty huge, pretty damn huge. And everything that you go through is what you're going to go through. And I think a lot of people get focused on, you know, how can I change this circumstance or that circumstance, in that would change their life path or something. But you're on the life path. And then it's like people just keep fighting it. But when you relax into it, it unfolds itself. And it takes you on the journey that you are meant to go on. But it's more peaceful, because you don't feel like that, like, oh, what should I do? How should I do it? And stuff. You just kind of relax, like, oh, I'm just living what I'm supposed to be doing. And that doesn't mean like you just become passive. You don't do anything. You just sit in your house and wait for something to happen. That's not what I'm saying. You got to be going, like, because they're telling you stuff to do all the time. So if you just do what they're telling you, which kind of makes you feel like a puppet, then you are following your inner guidance. So you're connected with your soul. And but anyways, there was some with the eyes and, you know, that recognition. So that is what it's like when you're outside of your body too. You know, you see, it's not just the eyes. It's like the eyes represent the whole being. So you can look and you can see the whole thing, like kind of like your eyes become who you are. Like, I don't know, it just sounds too crazy that's why I said sometimes they show me stuff that is, I think, so far beyond what people have any interest in. We got to stick to the subject about healing, because that's what's the most important. And anyway, so if we get into this idea that ghosts are just consciousness that is re-experiencing or experiencing. Oh, I was talking about that purgatory thing. Oh, yeah. So, so when a soul crosses over, you know, it can't take that toxic energy up. And a lot of souls have to have a period of rest, because, you know, some leave and don't even know that. I mean, nobody knows when they're about to die. Most people who have cancer and stuff, they know. But, you know, people who just are suddenly gone. And that's for a reason. That's so the other souls can experience what does that do? Because it brings up so much. I mean, when somebody dies in your life, you just replay everything. You start really looking at yourself and looking at time different, looking at how you spend your time and what you did with this person and the things you said. Like, there's so much to go over and to understand and see yourself clearly. So there's so much purpose behind death of the experience that and we think of it as being so tragic, but it's a blessing, and it's a transition, because I mean, who wants to stay here forever? You know, you want to keep changing it up a little bit. I want to play somebody new. I don't want to play this you know, forever and ever. You know, I do want to get into with this life, though, you know, is to live it as long as I want. I don't want them to decide when I'm going to go. I want to decide when I'm going to go. And that's going to be the blessing with the med beds and stuff, when we actually have control over our own being, and not this, you know, this bullshit that they've been doing to us. So, anyways, when you cross the over like that, so if you get killed, like really in a traumatic situation, and you cross over, a lot of people cross over and they're super confused. So you go into this like kind of like like if you were gonna go into a house, you know, you don't just go all the way in, you gotta go into the entryway or the sitting room or something. It's kind of like entering the other, when you transition, it's kind of like entering the new space, only you don't get to go all the way in. You have to stay out until you raise your vibration, until you get yourself straight, until you get yourself in a better place so that you can re-enter the general population. So you don't get to bring that toxic energy in and whine and cry about, oh, my life, and I had to be the bad guy. Everybody hates me, because he was doing a lot of that. He was really whining and crying. He was really mad and angry. And he was isolated. He was by himself in the dark. And he was so angry. And so she was kind of really freaked out by him. But yeah, he said he wasn't the one who was doing this stuff in my life. So she talked to my grandparents, and that was, oh my God, that was so cool. But my one grandma, who was a nurse, that's why I became a nurse, she had, you know, her husband left her with 4 kids back in the 40s, I think. And, you know, that was traumatic shit back then. And she had 4 kids, but she was a go-getter. She was a fighter, and she was a head nurse forever at this hospital. And so she was real rigid and kind of cold, but I could always see that there was something underneath. That was just the crusty the protection that she had put up, because she had been so hurt so much in her life. And anyways, when she was talking to the medium, and we were talking about that last relationship I was in, and they were telling me their opinions about this and everything. And but the one grandma who was so staunch and rigid, she was the one who was like, "Do you want me to go haunt him?" That is their sense of humor. When you get over to that side, people you think are one way here, over there, it's just about fun and having fun and loving. And so, yeah, when these ghost people go in and they're doing that, they probably have, you know, ghosts sitting there laughing and, you know, playing. And then the people are getting like terrorized and running like Abbott and Costello. It's just super funny when you see it in that way. Because we are so scared of what we can't see, of the unknown, and we're so untrusting. We're so untrusting and scared of the dark and stuff. And fear is the problem. There's nothing for us to fear. That we are the eternal, you know, we are the magical, we are the consciousness, you know, we are powerful. And when people get all caught up in like, well, there's demons and stuff, and you know, there's so many people who create the energetic stuff in their house. And you know, it's not like we have a bunch of, you know, big monster demons running around here trying to take us over. No, we just have energy that's lost, that doesn't even have its own consciousness yet. It's still just trying to understand itself. It's just like energy out there that attaches, you know. And if you are full of hate and anger and stuff, you're feeding that energy, making more of it. And you know, somebody can walk by you and they are more desirable because they're more depressed, and that energy will attach to them. And then if they're really weak, that energy can pull them to the point of suicide. I mean, there's so much about energy that we need to be really understanding and stuff, and quit being in fear, like creating like these monsters in our head that we go, oh my God, there's monsters everywhere, you know, because they're not. Ghosts, even if you have a ghost in your house, like I did have the one ghost in my house that was more recent. Well, I've had so many, but the one that where I got super sick, and I knew when I was there, it was like I was picking up on what she was putting down. And I knew that because her husband, because they had lived at that house, and she died of an upper respiratory sickness. And then her husband was still there, but I guess he got like dementia or something. So they put him in a home. And so when we moved in, it was a rental house. It was one family somebody had lived there before us, and they moved out real quick. And I was thinking, oh, I guess I know why now. Because this lady, she was not having it. And she was not happy about us being there at all. And I think she started getting really attached to his energy. And she started thinking like I was the problem, like I was the other woman. She was constantly doing things like closing doors between us. She would turn the water on in flood rooms. She was always doing stuff. And then more and more weird stuff happened. Like that house just got weirder and weirder. Like the giant, like that weird animal greasy footprint. That was on so many phones ago. Somebody just asked me recently if I still have that picture. And that's what sucks. Like I liked it back in the day when we had photo albums, you know, all these pictures just on our phones and on computers and stuff. You don't know where they are. You can't just go and look at them. Photo albums were way better. You just get one out and reminisce. You know, I don't know. I don't know why we got away from photo albums. They're just better. And but that print that was on that mirror, and it looked like a devil, like the creepiest print. I've never seen any animal print that looked like that. I don't even know what to call it. All I can think of is like where it shows that half animal, half man, and the bottom half of him is that goat, like walking weird, and the top of him is like the big horns, like that creepy guy. That's why I feel like it was his footprint, because that's what it looked like. It was weird, and it was greasy. Like, how did it have greasiness? And how did it get on this mirror in my downstairs? Like, there's no animals running through my house, running on, you know. It was creepy. It was like it just came up and went, burn. It was so weird. And after that, there was so much activity downstairs where people were seeing it. It was happening like right in front of them. And they're like, I'm not coming here anymore. Your house is scary. And she did. I don't know how it happened, because I didn't know that when she had died from when I got so sick. I got so sick in that house. I thought I was going to die. Oh my God, I was so sick with some respiratory thing. And they said I had, what was that other thing? Strep. I'd never had strep before. And they said, that's really weird for you to get strep when you've never had it before in your 50s. That's very unusual. And I was sick. And I just kept thinking, it's something with her. I don't know how she's doing it, but she's getting me sick. And I had to fight back. And we always have that ability. There's not some spirit that has more power than us. It's us surrendering our own power. When we have our own power and we know it, and we stand up to it, even if it's an unseen entity, it still has energy. It's still consciousness. And, you know, it's our energy against their energy. And we're equals, you know. And a lot of times you just tell the energy, like, hey, I'm living here too, so you better just back off. You know, this is my space, you stay in your space. You know, you got to command your space. So there's just a lot of things you can do to not like, people think like ghosts have some special power, like they can come and hurt us or do something, and you got to be scared. And then they are the ones creating the fear and pulling in all of this dark energy to them because they're so scared. When you get into the place, like, start talking to the ghosts. Like when I was a teenager, that ghost, I could talk to him and tell him to do something, and he would do it. Not like he was a monkey or a puppy or something. I think he did it just, you know, to show, hey, I'm here, I'm listening. You know, it depends on your relationship with the ghost. I look at him as like the Ghost of Mrs. Muir kind of relationship. Like he was like, you know, he was just not ready to let go. He had a lot of problems. I mean, he killed himself. And, you know, he was suffering and still trying to figure it out. And, but you can develop those relationships. If you've got some ghosts in your house, don't be scared of them. You don't have to do a Ouija board to talk to them. And the Ouija board's not going to make it more, you know, like, oh, now I've brought in all the demons from hell and they're going to come and get me. It's, if you think that, if that's what you think, then you're going to create that. You're going to make that happen. But that's not what's going to happen. I've been in some scary shit with the Ouija board. Like that one time when I was, these were real popular when I was a teenager. And that one time when I was 13 and doing seances. We were always doing seances and do that lift, you know, put your finger under somebody and then elevate them and all that stuff. We were always doing stuff like that. And like I said, my mom and they were all young, so they were trying to do telepathy. So it was kind of like that. you know, I grew up with that being an open mind to that kind of situation. And so it was always real to me. And so when you have, you know, spirits around, I mean, we're around spirits all the time, we're around ghosts and other beings all the time. There's other beings around us, and some that are higher up can come and have awareness of us, can be watching us and know what they're watching. We're just going about, you know, like somebody's watching us through a window and we don't know, and they're watching us just live our lives. They're just watching us because it's interesting to see, like, you know, what do you do if this happens? What do you do if that happens? They're learning, you know, we're all learning from each other. So souls are always around you, watching you. And that's why these people who think that they can get away with something like, oh, I'm just going to go do this, no one's going to know. I'm just going to go do this. Because to me, I knew early on, you know, if you're not going to do it in front of your grandparents, you better not do it. Because they're probably watching. And then when you cross over, yeah, you know, and when you cross over, there's no hiding yourself, you know, especially everyone around you has already seen who you are. So you get to go in and see who you are. But, you know, everyone, you're always being watched, you know, and they're not watching like, you know, oh, let's watch her get undressed. Oh, you know, they don't have those feelings. Those feelings come from being in a body, you know, being sexually aroused by something. They don't have that. They're observing. It's like an observer, and it's like to learn from. So it's like we are down here on the stage. When we are in life, we're down on the stage. So, but there's an audience in what we're living, and you have ones that are tuned in to you and that experience. So you have ones that are very focused on you, and that's where you can get guidance, you know. You can get relief from pressure, you know, like you can talk to them and they'll give you insights of why something is happening, and they make you feel like, oh, okay, I get it now, that makes sense. And it just changes how you feel about something when something makes sense. So when you're down here on the stage in life, it's part of the contract. You are being watched. You are the experiment. You are the show. So, you know, it's not like they're creeping on us and they're sneaking in to watch us get undressed or go to the bathroom or something. I'd seen that guy the other day, and he said something like, ghosts watch you shower and shave or something like that. And I don't know, I didn't go in and watch his thing, but, you know, they are around you all the time, and they are watching you, and they may find that boring. They may go like, who cares? But, you know, it could be what you're thinking about while you're doing some of these mindless tasks. That's what they're tuned into. They're tuned into that. They're not tuned into, oh, did she wipe? Oh, is she washing her hands? Oh, you know, that's our three-dimensional kind of way. They're not thinking about that. They are tuned into, I mean, everything is telepathy. They're tuned into the astral, this other part of you. You know, they're just watching the show with your higher self. So, I just think that there's a lot to learn, and I've already been talking an hour. So, anyways, hopefully some of that made sense. I won't just keep going and going. But you know, it is, the more that you can get into your head that you are the same as all of these things. You are a ghost living in a body right now. That's it. You're not even really living in a body. You're just having an experience where you think you're in a body. So you think you're in a body so you can enjoy this experience, but so much of this experience is not enjoyable. But we're moving into a more fun time. We're moving out of this hard, heavy energy that we've been, you know, some people seduced by. Some people have definitely been seduced by this, you know, and have found some really ugly parts of themselves. And, you know, as soon as you find those ugly parts, it's your opportunity to say, ooh, no, I don't want that. Ugh, I don't want to be like that anymore. And we all have to do that. That's our humbling experience. And that's what levels us all to that equal level where we all got some shitty stuff, and then we got to learn to love our good stuff and let go of our shitty stuff. And, you know, that's the world that we're going to create and that we're going to move into. And it's going to be the kind of world where, you know, you feel good, you feel happy, you feel complete. Your relationships have substance, balance, you know. When you do your healing, it changes how you interact with people. Like, people can be upset with me or something, and I can let it go and know that this is theirs. I don't have to be a part of it. I don't have to own it with them. I don't have to experience it with them. I can let it go and know that it's theirs, and it's really a blessing for them, because then they get to grow and overcome and empower themselves. And that's what everything is all about. So anyways, have a great day, and you know, just work on you. That's all we can do. And we're going to get through this, you know, and don't hold on to the sides. Just be free. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.